Determine trends and substance abuse. I had to drop off lacrosse snacks that was stupid.
It's just like the one we did.
All right. The light up on the meeting here.
Supposed to drop off snack for the party.
Pardon me, is this different than the one that was this morning in this room?
Probably, because I wasn't here this morning, so I don't think anybody else is doing this.
They'll probably have a better idea of the laws.
What was this morning's?
Hardy girls, hardy women, based on cyberbullying and some of the
Cyberbullying,
things
what we
this.
think about it?
Yeah, no, that's not what this is. So, yeah. All right, we can get started. Is that camera on? Mm-hmm. It is on. It's going now. All right. Great. Perfect. Hi. My name's Corey MacDonald. I'm the deputy chief here in Portsmouth. A little bit about my background prior to being appointed as the deputy chief in Portsmouth this past September. I was the captain of our detective division for about 4 years. And my major assignment there was to run the state of New Hampshire's task force on internet crimes against children. So basically, we handle all child sexual assault in the state of New Hampshire that's facilitated by technology. And that's pretty much how that works. So we might be knocking. Is the door locked?
It's not locked, no.
Right, they're just knocking. So that was sort of my background. Earlier than that, I was the school resource officer for Portsmouth High School back when I was a detective. And then when I'm not working for the city doing law enforcement, I have a law firm downtown. I do quite a bit of divorce, family law, and employment law. And I bring that up because it all kind of ties in, you know, strangely enough, a lot of those cases involve social networking, or at least some of the stuff that happens in those type of cases involve social networking. So I've got quite a background in this, and I've been traveling around the country for Omni Publishing out of Boston since 2006, talking to groups about how to do investigations on Facebook, MySpace, back when MySpace was the big thing, and all sort of that social networking field. So sort of educating detectives, and then talking also to schools about liability and school policy and what they can do differently. So what I want to do today is just really hopefully answer some of your questions, go through some maybe issues that you're seeing, provide some insight as to what I've seen in ways that maybe you can help keep your kids a little bit safer online. But really with the amount of time we have, just provide sort of answers to your questions, I guess is the biggest thing. So I've got this outline, we'll go through it, but if you have pressing stuff, raise your hand, let me know, and we can talk about it. I think, you know, as a foundation, we look at why kids are on there. This is all the stuff we used to point at a lot and say, okay, kids are on these sites right now because they have this false perception of being anonymous. Is that still true? To an extent, it's still true. They still kind of seem to think that what they post is just for them and their friends. A chance to portray an image, to set up who they want to be, meet like-minded people. Still a big draw for young adults is the little to no supervision and this perception that when it comes to these sites, they are light years ahead of where we are. And those are all attractions. But what's now kind of overshadows all of this, because it's been such a long period of time, it's just a way of life. These kids have grown up in it, this is how they communicate, this is how they share information. So when we used to talk about this, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and look at, geez, why are they on here all the time? I don't understand it. Why are they on MySpace and Facebook and all this stuff? And we point at different reasons and trends. I think this is interesting to look at, but really, it's here to stay. And I bring that up because sometimes parents say to me, well, I've got the solution, I've got all this stuff figured out. Really easy answer, my kid's not doing it. My kid's not going to be on Facebook. My kid's not going to be on Zanga, Hi-Fi, whatever the other sites are that they like. And I would say that that is not helpful. I would say that the only person that's going to feel better from that is the parent, who's going to be able to go, look, I dealt with the problem. See, they're not on it. And of course they are still on it. They're on it on their cell phone, or they're at a friend's house, they borrow somebody's login. And what essentially you're doing is you're setting your kids up, I think, to fail, because you've removed yourself from that safety network that they're going to rely on when things go sideways online, which they often do. So now when something happens, they have that strange email, or that they send a photograph to somebody, and now they hear their photograph is being moved around online, or something crazy is going on. The one person that they should be able to talk to that they now can't talk to is you. So I would recommend, instead of doing sort of that head in the sand, all or nothing approach, that you treat it like any other privilege, like the family car, like anything else, where you say, okay, here's some rules, here's some guidelines. If you break the rules, there are going to be consequences, but that you address it that way. And in sitting in many living rooms, working with families after things have gone a little bit sideways, the people who have done that are usually better equipped to deal with their kids, to help them through these problems, than the parents who are just too, intimidated or nervous really to dive in. So one of the things that we want to do when we talk to our young adults about social networking and about these sites is not always focus just on the doom and gloom, because they can't have us always coming from the angle of, if you have a Facebook site, the pedophiles are going to flock to your house and find you online and sort of overplay it, which we sometimes do, especially in law enforcement. We did it all through the 50s and earlier with smoking marijuana, and we pushed out that message: if you smoke marijuana, you're going to die or become a raving criminal. And what happens is people eventually figure out, well, that's just not accurate, and then we lose our credibility. And we did the same thing, I think, with kids with this stuff. In the beginning, we hit them so hard with, the pedophile, the stranger danger online, that whatever you do, don't put your full name on your Facebook site and your address because they'll find you. And we hit them so hard with that they looked around the room and said, well, geez, I don't see everybody being abducted. And we lost some of our credibility right up front. So we got to back off of that a little bit and say, okay, much like anything, there's some great uses for this stuff, real positive pieces to this, but it comes with dangers. And I think if you frame your discussion with these kids that way, it's like, hey, yeah, this is fun, this is a good thing, but we got to limit your screen time, because it's not healthy to be on it 24/7, whether it's for your phone or the computer. We got to talk about some of the danger that comes with being online, of pedophiles that are out there, or sex offenders looking for young adults. They certainly are there. We do deal with that. But unfortunately, of kids that are sexually assaulted, the statistic is something like 92% are sexually assaulted by a friend or family member known to the family. So when we talk about strangers and watch out for the guy who asks you to help him find his lost puppy in the woods, you're dealing with about 8% of the risk. The conversation has to be, what do you do when a trusted friend or family member, like uncle or cousin or a parent or something like that, steps over that line? And they use social networking a lot of the time to do that. So you have the cousin or the uncle or whoever, who in those family situations is kind of keeping it what you would expect, and then has this back channel of communication. And that's really uncomfortable to talk about. And usually when that gets brought up, people get a little bit like, oh, it's much easier to talk about the scary white panel van that's cruising the neighborhood looking for kids than it is to talk about what happens sometimes in some families, and statistically, unfortunately, quite often. But those are the real dangers that we have to talk about. So I put these up here just as a reminder. Hit on the positives with your kids right up front so you don't lose that credibility with them. Looking at some of the dangers on here, it isn't always about kids being victimized. It isn't always about sexual assault or bullying or anything else. Sometimes it's just about good kids posting really stupid stuff. Kids, I talk about posting for your 30s. When you're posting today, these kids aren't thinking about, because we didn't have to deal with it, putting stuff in an area that's going to last potentially in perpetuity to come back and get them years later. You think about how our presidential and our local elections go and how ugly they are and all that fighting. They'll dig an old photograph of somebody from college and wave it around and it'll become this propaganda monster. Wait till our kids are running for some sort of public office and they've been posting inappropriate and personal stuff, since they were God knows how old. So reiterating to our kids today, what you post today is going to stick with you forever. And sometimes the one way to do that is to talk about it as if you had posted something. So you say, okay, let's say, I remember we had a couple parents that were all freaked out because their 13-year-old had posted a picture of herself in a bikini. She did not look 13, certainly didn't look 13 in her bikini, and put it out there. And these parents are like, that's my little girl who's now all over the web. And they're like, but how do we have that conversation? How do we explain to her sort of the dangers of that, the ramifications. And she was like kind of in these poses that were somewhat suggestive. And so they wound up speaking with her about how would you feel if mom did that? You know, if mom was out there doing that, do you think that'd be helpful for her at work? You know, with her bosses seeing that, with people. Would you want to see it? Would you want your little friends to be seeing your mom doing that? And I know that doesn't always fit. Some people will be like, well, who cares? But it fit for that family. For that family, it resonated with that young adult. She was like, okay, she seemed to get it. But a lot of this is going to be, you know, remembering that our kids' job at certain ages are to make stupid choices. That's actually in their job description, right? We all did it. We just had the benefit of not posting our stupid decisions on a computer for everyone to remember years later. My daughter, I would not have this job. So remembering that your kids are going to screw up and do stupid things online and that that's not the end of the world is important. Framing it so that they understand that you're not just worried about sexual assaults and stranger danger, because when you harp too much on that, it feels so removed for them. You got to bring it home to local examples. So you cover that, but you also talk about getting into college. You talk about the fact that there are people whose only job in universities today is to find stuff in their backgrounds on social networking profiles to decide if they're a liability risk, an alcohol problem, or something else that they don't want in the school. The example of one scholarship, 2 students, they're both equally qualified. One person, they look at their social networking background, and in this kid's profile picture, he's throwing gang signs in his profile picture. Little white kid from Rye. He's not in a gang. He may think he is at one point in time, but he's not. It's joking around, it's part of his personality, it's a trendy little thing he's doing. But when I talk to kids, I say, listen, your pictures don't come with a disclaimer saying this is little Johnny from Washington Road and Rye, really? You know, it doesn't come with that. So when you've got this big university who's going through applications and doing their social networking screening and they see a kid throwing what look like gang signs, how far are they going to dig? Are they going to ask him for an explanation? Probably not so much. They're just going to move on. And if you think about how hard your kids work going through school and getting to that point where they're achieving these dreams that they want, and then for it to be thrown out for some stupid reason like that, that's important that we explain that to them, that can happen. Employers, same thing. There are countless examples of young college grads getting that first job or not getting it, and because of what they posted online. So that's huge to have them think about what they put out there for everyone to see. And when I talk to them, I often use, the analogy of a poster board. I'm thinking of everything that you post online. Imagine it on a poster board that you have to carry around with you. I'm like, do you want to carry that poster board? And usually the kids are like, yeah. If I put it online, I don't care who sees it. I'm like, okay, so you're carrying that poster board to grandma's house. Is she going to be great with everything you posted? Like, all right, not grandma. All right, how about church? How about wherever it is you go, whatever it is you do? Are you always good with all of it? And if the answer is no, then you say, well, what part of your audience do you not want to see that? And is any of that audience in your friends list? Of course, their friends are, their 655 closest friends. So helping them understand that they're broadcasting a message about who they are, about their personality, to a wide range of people with different diverse reasons for being in their friend list. Some might be, teachers, students, whatever. They have to think about that. Helping them understand the terms of service on these different sites. Very few adults even understand the terms of service. When you sign up for Facebook and you're uploading these pictures, you're granting them a license to use all of that stuff and to use it really however they want. And that license means that they can take that picture, they can use it in marketing, they can sell it, they can put it in banks of pictures of, if the picture is, I also talk to cops about all the stupid things we post online. So when I talk to cops and firemen and other public servants, I talk to them about, hey, here's this picture that you have of you in your uniform doing something. That might be fine, but just understand you've just granted a license for them to use that. And you want to do that. So helping our kids understand that when they sign up for these sites, anything they post, they don't actually own those things anymore. They may own them in some sense of the word, but they've granted a license. Other people now have rights to those photographs. Understanding that, the power of Google, as we call it. The fact that you never can walk away from what's in your past. There's an interesting area of law when it comes to annulling criminal records. And not to get off on a crazy tangent, but the general rule is if you get convicted of a crime, after a certain amount of time goes by, you can apply to the court to have your record wiped clean. And once it's wiped clean, it's like it never happened. As a matter of fact, if anybody ever talks about it after that, it's a misdemeanor for that person to talk about it. So if you committed a shoplifting, and then you had your record wiped clean, it's back from when you were in your 20s, and that happened, and then somebody brings it up, especially in official capacity, like a police officer, somebody says, well, you committed that shoplifting. It's a misdemeanor for the person to do that, because the thought is you should be able, after a period of time, if you apply, to walk away from past problems. It's really irrelevant now. Like, people get things annulled, but it doesn't matter. You can't annul Google. So people have had crimes wiped out legally. You can still find them online. And where that becomes an issue is the law is set up so that if you wiped it out, it can't be brought up unless it's a matter of still public record. Well, Google has essentially sort of just destroyed this whole area. And you may have remembered last year, there was a lot of stuff in the legislature about whether we should even have an annulment law and how it should work. But really, there's no way to walk away from anything anymore. Intellius is one of numerous different background sites that are out there. And so young adults go, hey, it's okay with what I post, because my page is private. It's very private, it's set to private. Only the, like I talked about, my 655 closest friends can see it, not the general public. These sites like Intellius will pull data and pull information that then people can pay, like $19.95, and get all your background stuff. And what happens is when Facebook often changes its privacy policies, usually like that, and then you find out about it a month later when you realize now everybody can see all your stuff you thought was private. What'll go on then is Intellius and sites like that will suck that information out right away and have it as a searchable form for somebody who wants to do a background. So schools are using this, employers are using this. I get countless calls in my sort of law practice for people going, how do I find out more about this person and what they're up to? And really, it's a pretty cheap way to do it. So helping our kids understand that just because they use those privacy settings, that doesn't even necessarily protect them. So the underlying message is, think before you post. You want to post something, take a minute and really think about it. Is there any negatives to this? Is there any downside to this? And if you come up with what the downside might be, you got to weigh it out. So, well, is it worth it? I think the picture's funny. Well, maybe I should send the picture to my friend instead of actually putting it tied to my name forever on Facebook and helping them understand that. There's a couple different Facebook sites that are directed towards different professions. I say a couple, there's hundreds and thousands. But like I said, I talk to public safety workers all over the country about, and usually to human resources staff, about how to keep your public safety workers from posting stupid stuff online because it incurs some liability. And just to sort of give you an idea, there's a site out there called Cop Humor or something, and in law enforcement, and firefighting, and nursing and stuff like that, we all have sort of a rather demented sense of humor after doing this job for any period of time, sort of dark humor. And we all find it hilarious, and the general public does not. And this site has all just kind of funny cop-related humor stuff. And some of the guys posted it on their page, stuff that they didn't bat an eyelash at. And people saw it, and it cost some people their jobs. And it was nothing like horrific, it was just a matter of, well, it's not the reputation that we want our department to have. And they're like, but it's my private site. Well, you're standing there in uniform in these other pictures. So you've taken on the identity of your department, and you're doing this. We had some firefighters here in New Hampshire, our paramedics, who posted on their Facebook site last year. Somebody said, how was your day? And the guy wrote back, he goes, it sucked. I spent the day cleaning up hair and teeth off this Balding Turnpike. Well, one of his 655 closest friends was a relative to the person whose hair and teeth he was cleaning up all off this Balding Turnpike. Can you imagine getting a notification of a family member that way, or even if you'd already known, to hear those type details? Now, firefighter to firefighter, that's nothing. That's that venting that's actually healthy. It's the sort of throwing that type of stuff out there. Not appropriate on Facebook. So when we see adults that are in professions that we expect sort of a higher level of understanding, making stupid decisions like that, then we really cannot be surprised when our 15-year-old thought it was a great idea to post that he hates his math teacher. So it's kind of understanding that this is a challenge that sort of our entire community faces, and now how do we help our kids get through it? The other thing is mentioning to them that it's part of their online appearance. So it's, you know, I say to them, do you go out the door, you comb your hair? I don't need to. But, you know, the general thought is you look in the mirror, you make sure you don't look ridiculous when you walk out the door. Take a minute and look at your profile, look at your online persona, and say, how does this come across? And help them work through that with them. Sit down with them and go, okay, let's go through your online stuff. Let's go through your Facebook page. And not in a confrontational, oh my God, I can't believe you posted that way, but just a, what do you think this says about you? Are you happy with what it says? And if the answer is yes, then okay, you're happy with what it says. And then you decide if it's going to stay or not. But focusing now on what are some of the other areas of concern. Craigslist, great for used furniture, appliances, and prostitutes. Seriously, like the stuff that's available on Craigslist is really mind-blowing. They had a section on there, and I think I have a slide for it. Just drop ahead. Yeah, so this is a general Craigslist shot. I think I was in Detroit when I pulled this, and we were looking under casual encounters, and I think the next one was under services, the erotic services. And it's all, you know, stuff like this, which I don't know if you can read from there, and I'm certainly not reading it out loud for the camera. But basically, you click on one, and this is where you're going to get, and this is about as clean a one as I can find. A phone number, $150 in-call special, 21 years old, looking to have a good time, blah, 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 blah. It's that blunt, it's that blatant, the prostitution ads that are on there. And so if you look and go, well, how does that apply to me? My kid's really not out shopping for prostitutes. The difference is, it used to be, you had to be shopping for prostitutes, so to speak. You know, the group of kids that all get together and think it's funny to trip down to, you know, the combat zone when it existed or something like that. It's now in your living room. And the change that we've seen with that is, you know, the football team, as an example, not our football team, not a local story where everybody freaks out and winds up in the Herald. You know, the football team who's having a party some night and says,